I lay on the cold concrete floor of our garage, staring up at the fluorescent lights, unable to move my legs. My brother Tyler stood in the doorway, that familiar smirk on his face. Dad loomed over me, his face red with anger. "Walk it off. Stop being a baby," he yelled. Mom rushed between me and the backyard where Tyler's 18th birthday party continued without interruption. She accused me of ruining the celebration, of making everything about myself as usual. I tried to explain that I genuinely could not feel anything below my waist, but they refused to listen. 20 minutes had passed since Tyler pushed me off that ramp. 20 minutes of me lying there, begging for help that would not come. The numbness in my legs had not improved. If anything, it felt worse, like my entire lower body had simply disconnected from my brain. I could see my legs, but they felt like they belonged to someone else. Dad paced back and forth, his dress shoes clicking on the concrete. He kept glancing toward the backyard, where I could hear Tyler's friends laughing and music playing. This was supposed to be Tyler's big day. He had just graduated high school with a full athletic scholarship to State University, and Mom and Dad had thrown him this huge party. Half the neighborhood was out there, and here I was, 28 years old, lying on the garage floor, ruining everything. That is what Mom kept saying anyway. She would rush in from the backyard, her face tight with barely controlled fury, and hiss at me to get up. "People are starting to ask questions. Dexter, get up right now." Then she would hurry back outside, her smile snapping back into place as she rejoined the guests. I tried to explain again. "Dad, I am serious. I cannot move my legs. Something is really wrong." He crouched down next to me, his voice low and dangerous. "You have always been dramatic. Ever since you were a kid. Always seeking attention. Always trying to make everything about you. Well, not today. Today is Tyler's day. You will get up, walk out there, and apologize for causing a scene." "But I cannot walk," I said, my voice breaking. "I really cannot." Dad stood up abruptly. "Enough. I am not calling 911 so you can embarrass this family with your theatrics. You are fine. You will be fine. Now stop this nonsense." I felt tears of frustration burning in my eyes. This was not new. This was the pattern of my entire life. Whatever Tyler did, whatever Tyler needed, that came first. My needs, my pain, my problems were always dismissed as attention-seeking, as jealousy, as me being difficult. But this time was different. This time, I was not exaggerating. I was not being dramatic. Something was genuinely, terrifyingly wrong with my body. The tingling sensation I had felt earlier was spreading. It crept up from my waist, a horrible pins and needles feeling that made my skin crawl. I tried to move my arms to prop myself up, to show them I was trying, but my movements felt weak and uncoordinated. Mom came back in, and this time she was not alone. Tyler followed her, looking less smug now, more uncertain. Mom knelt beside me, her voice taking on that syrupy, sweet tone she used when she wanted to manipulate me. "Sweetheart, I know you are upset that Tyler is getting so much attention today. I know it has been hard for you, watching your little brother succeed while you have struggled. But this is not the way to handle those feelings. You need to get up now, dust yourself off, and be happy for your brother." I stared at her in disbelief. "You think I am doing this because I am jealous?" Tyler shifted uncomfortably. "Mom, maybe we should just call someone. He does not look good." "Do not encourage him," Mom snapped at Tyler. She turned back to me. "Remember when you were 12 and claimed you broke your arm, and it turned out to be just a bruise? Or when you were 15 and said you had a concussion, but the doctor said you were fine? You have a history of this, Dexter." "Those injuries were real," I said weakly. "The doctors minimized them because you told them I was clumsy and accident-prone." Dad cut in. "See? This victim mentality. This is exactly what I am talking about. You always have an excuse, always someone else to blame." I tried to push myself up with my arms, determined to prove I was trying, but something was very wrong. My arms felt heavy, sluggish. The tingling sensation had reached my chest now. And worse, much worse, I was starting to feel like I could not take a full breath. "I cannot breathe right," I gasped. "Please, something is really wrong." Dad threw his hands up in exasperation, and walked toward the door to the backyard. I am done with this. I am going back to the party. When you decide to stop this act, you can join us. Tyler lingered, looking torn. Dex, just try to get up. Please. It will make everything easier. I would if I could, I whispered, and something in my voice must have finally gotten through to him because his face went pale. That is when I heard the voice from outside. What is going on here? Mrs. Patricia Holloway, our next-door neighbor, appeared in the garage doorway. She was in her 70s, a tiny woman with steel gray hair and sharp blue eyes that missed nothing. She had lived next door to us my entire life. Patricia, Mom said, forcing a smile. Everything is fine. Dexter just had a little tumble. He is being a bit dramatic about it. Patricia walked past Mom and came to stand over me. She looked down at me with those sharp eyes, taking in my position on the floor, the way I was not moving, the pallor of my face. How long has he been lying here? Just a few minutes. Mom lied smoothly. 20 minutes, I corrected, my voice barely above a whisper. I cannot move my legs. I cannot feel them. And now my arms are going numb, too. Patricia's expression hardened. I am calling 911. That is not necessary, Dad said, coming back into the garage. Really, Patricia, this is a family matter. A family matter? Patricia pulled out her cell phone. A young man is lying on your garage floor saying he cannot move. And you call it a family matter? Richard. Mom's voice took on a warning tone as she addressed Dad. Richard, maybe we should just let her call. To be safe. But her eyes said something different. Her eyes said, do not let this get out of hand. Do not let outsiders see our business. Dad moved toward Patricia. Put the phone down. You are overreacting. Just like he is. Patricia took a step back and raised her phone higher. I am calling. And if you try to stop me, I will call the police too. What is wrong with you people? Look at him. She was already dialing. Mom and Dad exchanged a look, a whole conversation happening in that glance. Then Mom's face crumpled into tears, her public face sliding into place. Oh God, you are right. We were just scared. We did not want to overreact. Please. Yes, call them. Our boy needs help. It was a masterful performance. Patricia frowned but nodded, speaking into her phone, giving our address, describing the situation. While she talked, I tried to move again. This time, my arms barely responded. The tingling had become numbness, creeping up my torso like ice water. And my breathing felt shallow, restricted, wrong. I cannot breathe, I said, louder this time, panic flooding through me. I cannot breathe right. Patricia's eyes widened. She turned back to the 911 operator. He says he is having trouble breathing. Yes. Please hurry. Mom knelt beside me again, but this time she was not coaching me to get up. She was performing concern for Patricia's benefit, stroking my hair, telling me help was coming. Dad stood by the garage door, his jaw clenched, arms crossed. Tyler had backed into the corner, his face ashen, watching everything unfold. I am going to get my late husband's oxygen tank, Patricia said suddenly. Do not move him. The operator says do not move him at all. She hurried out, surprisingly fast for her age. The moment she was gone, Mom's gentle touch turned into a grip on my shoulder. When the paramedics get here, you tell them it was just a simple fall. Nothing more. Do you understand me? But it was not, I said, each word harder to form. Tyler ran at me, full speed. While I was on top of the ramp, Mom's fingers dug into my shoulder. You are confused. You are in shock. It was just a little push. Just brothers roughhousing. That is what you will say. Dad added, if you turn this into something it is not, if you try to make your brother look bad, there will be consequences, Dexter. Serious consequences. I looked at Tyler, hoping he would speak up, tell the truth, but he just stared at the ground. The sound of sirens in the distance had never sounded so beautiful. The ambulance arrived in what felt like both an eternity and an instant. 2 paramedics rushed into the garage. A woman in her late 30s with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail and a younger man, probably early 30s, with a close-cropped beard. The woman took charge immediately. "I am Jennifer. This is Craig. Can you tell me what happened?" I opened my mouth, but Mom jumped in first, her voice trembling with perfectly calibrated maternal concern. "He fell off a ramp. Just a little 4-foot ramp in the backyard. Boys being boys, you know. He landed wrong and now he says he cannot move his legs." Jennifer knelt beside me, her hands already moving over my body with practiced efficiency, checking for obvious injuries. "Sir, can you tell me your name?" "Dexter," I said. "Dexter Morrison." "Okay, Dexter. Can you feel this?" She pressed on my leg. I felt nothing. "This?" She moved higher, to my thigh. "Nothing." "How about this?" She touched my abdomen. A faint sensation, like feeling something through thick layers of fabric. "Barely," I said. "Arms?" She took my hand, squeezed my fingers. I tried. My fingers barely moved. Jennifer's expression shifted, becoming more serious, more focused. She looked at Craig. "Let us get a collar on him. Careful with the spine." They worked together, moving efficiently, stabilizing my neck with a cervical collar. Jennifer kept talking to me, asking questions, but her hands were examining my neck and upper back. When her fingers pressed at the base of my skull, I gasped. "That hurt," she said. It was not a question. "Yes, a lot." Craig was setting up equipment, preparing for transport. Tyler, Mom, and Dad hovered nearby. Patricia had returned with a small oxygen tank, but Jennifer waved it off, already hooking me up to the ambulance's oxygen supply. "How far did he fall?" Jennifer asked, still examining my neck and back. Tyler answered this time, his voice shaky. 4 feet. Maybe a little more. Jennifer did not look up. "And how did he fall?" "Exactly? He just lost his balance," Mom said quickly. "Went right over the side." Jennifer's hands paused on my back. She was feeling something, some specific injury. Her expression was unreadable, but I saw her and Craig exchange a look. "Is there anyone here who saw what happened?" Jennifer asked. Louder now, projecting her voice toward the backyard where the party had mostly gone silent. Several teenagers had gathered near the garage door, drawn by the ambulance lights. One of them, a tall kid with braces that I recognized as Marcus, one of Tyler's teammates, spoke up. "I saw it." "Marcus, shoot up," Tyler hissed, but Marcus stepped forward. He did not just lose his balance. Tyler ran at him from behind and hit him full force, while Dexter was standing at the top of the ramp, like a tackle in football. Dexter went flying and landed on his neck and back on the concrete patio. It was not 4 feet. That ramp is at least 8 feet high at the top. The garage went very quiet. Jennifer's voice was calm but cold. "Is that true?" Tyler looked at the ground. "It was just a prank. I did not mean for him to get hurt." Jennifer stood up, pulling Craig aside. They spoke in low voices, but I heard fragments. Mechanism of injury does not match. Inconsistent statements. "Look at this swelling. That is major trauma." Craig nodded and pulled out his radio. Jennifer came back to me, and this time she was cutting away my shirt with trauma shears. "I need to do a full assessment," she explained. As my shirt fell away, Jennifer went very still. Craig, who had been radioing dispatch, turned to look. Patricia, still standing nearby, gasped. My torso was covered in scars. Some were thin white lines, old and faded. Others were darker, more recent. There were strange patterns of discoloration across my ribs, my sides, my back, evidence of injuries that had healed badly over the years. Jennifer's voice was very quiet. "Dexter, how did you get these scars?" I closed my eyes. "Various accidents. Over the years. These are not from accidents." Jennifer pulled out a medical camera and began photographing my injuries, both the new swelling and the old scars. "Craig, call for police backup." "That is not necessary," Dad said, his voice tight. Jennifer did not even look at him. "Sir, step back, please." She leaned close to me, her voice gentle but urgent. "Dexter, I need you to be honest with me. Has this kind of thing happened before?" I thought about lying. I had lied so many times before, covering for them, making excuses, protecting the family image. But lying on that concrete floor, unable to move, unable to even breathe properly. Something in me broke. My whole life, I whispered. Jennifer's jaw clenched. She stood up and faced my parents. You are not to come near him. Craig, do not let them near the patient. Now wait just a minute. Dad started forward, his face reddening with anger. Sir, if you take one more step, I will have you arrested for interfering with emergency medical services. Jennifer's voice cracked like a whip. Craig was already on his radio again, requesting police presence at the scene. You cannot do this, Mom said, tears streaming down her face now. Real ones this time. You are misunderstanding. Those scars, they are from sports, from childhood accidents. Dexter was always a clumsy child. Ma'am, I have been a paramedic for 15 years. I know the difference between accident patterns and abuse patterns. These injuries, she gestured at my scarred torso, span years. Multiple types of trauma, different stages of healing. And this current injury, she pointed at the massive swelling at the base of my skull, is consistent with blunt force trauma from a significant height impact combined with being struck from behind. The sound of additional sirens approached. Police sirens this time. Jennifer and Craig worked quickly to get me onto a backboard, every movement causing new waves of pain through my damaged spine. The paralysis continued to spread. I could barely move my arms now. Each breath took tremendous effort. You are going to be okay, Jennifer said, but I could hear the uncertainty in her voice. We are taking you to Sacred Heart. They have the best trauma center in the county. 2 police officers appeared, their presence filling the garage. Mom launched into her tearful explanation about a terrible accident, about misunderstandings, about a troubled son who had always sought attention. But the officers were looking at the photos on Jennifer's camera, at my scarred body, at the statements from the teenagers who had witnessed Tyler's attack. One of the officers, a woman with sharp eyes and graying hair, stepped in front of my parents. I am Detective Lauren Hayes. I need both of you to come down to the station to answer some questions. We have done nothing wrong, Dad blustered. This is harassment. Sir, you can come voluntarily or I can arrest you. Your choice. As they loaded me into the ambulance, I caught one last glimpse of my family. Dad was red-faced and arguing. Mom was crying and pleading. Tyler stood frozen, watching me leave, his face a mask of horror at what he had done. Patricia stood apart from them, her elderly face set in grim satisfaction. She caught my eye and nodded once. I nodded back, as much as the neck brace would allow. The ambulance doors closed. Jennifer hung an IV bag, adjusted my oxygen. How is your breathing, Dexter? Harder, I admitted. Each breath feels like work. She frowned and increased my oxygen flow. We are 10 minutes out. Just hold on. I stared up at the ambulance ceiling, the lights blurring together. For the first time in my life, someone had believed me. Someone had seen through the lies, through the excuses, through the carefully constructed facade my parents had built. But as the paralysis crept higher up my chest, as each breath became more difficult, I wondered if that belief had come too late. Sacred Heart Medical Center rose up like a cathedral, all glass and steel against the evening sky. They wheeled me in through emergency doors that hissed open, into a world of bright lights, urgent voices, and rapid movement. Jennifer stayed with me, rattling off medical terms I did not fully understand. Male, 28. Suspected spinal cord injury at C5 or C6 level, progressive ascending paralysis, respiratory compromise, multiple historical trauma indicators. A doctor materialized, tall and gray-haired, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. I am Dr. Raymond Foster, Chief of Neurosurgery. We are going to take excellent care of you, Dexter. They cut away the rest of my clothes, examined every inch of me. More photos were taken, more measurements, more tests. The room spun with activity while I lay there, helpless, trying to focus on breathing. Each breath took concentration now, a conscious effort to pull air into lungs that felt wrapped in steel bands. We need to get him into MRI immediately, Dr. Foster said. Check for cord compression, edema, any fractures we cannot see on X-ray. And call Detective Hayes. Tell her we will have results soon. Detective Hayes had followed the ambulance. I could hear her outside my curtained area, talking to hospital security, making arrangements. Tyler was there too, I realized. They had brought him in for questioning. The MRI machine was loud and confining. I had to lie perfectly still for 45 minutes while it mapped the destruction of my spine. Dr. Foster's voice came through speakers, telling me to hold still, telling me I was doing great, telling me it would be over soon. But nothing would be over soon. I knew that now, lying in that magnetic tomb, unable to move anything below my neck. When they finally pulled me out, Dr. Foster's kind eyes had taken on a weight they had not carried before. He squeezed my shoulder. "We are moving you to ICU. I need to review these scans carefully, and then I need to talk to you about what we found." The ICU was quieter, more controlled. They transferred me to a bed, hooked up more monitors, more IVs. A nurse with gentle hands adjusted my position, trying to make me comfortable, though I could barely feel anything she did. An hour crawled by. Through the glass walls of my room, I could see Detective Hayes and another officer talking to Tyler in the hallway. Tyler's head was in his hands. His shoulders shook. Dr. Foster returned with Detective Hayes. They stood at my bedside, and the doctor's expression told me everything before he opened his mouth. "Dexter, the MRI shows severe damage. You have a contusion, essentially a bruise, on your spinal cord at the C5 level. There is significant swelling putting pressure on the cord. That is why you have been experiencing progressive paralysis. Will it get better?" I asked, though I already knew. Dr. Foster chose his words carefully. "We can reduce the swelling with medication and possibly surgery. You may regain some function in your arms and hands. But the damage to the cord itself," he paused. "I need you to understand that you will likely have permanent paralysis from the chest down. You will not walk again." The words hung in the air. I stared at the ceiling, processing. 28 years old, paralyzed, never walk again. Detective Hayes cleared her throat. "There is more, Dexter. The MRI showed other things. Old things." Dr. Foster pulled up images on a tablet, turning it so I could see. "Your spine has multiple compression fractures, all healed, dating back years. Some are from when you were a teenager. You also have evidence of an old traumatic brain injury, healed rib fractures, and damage consistent with repeated blunt force trauma to your torso and back." I closed my eyes. Of course. The evidence of everything they had done, written in my bones. Detective Hayes leaned forward. "We pulled your medical records. You were brought to this hospital 3 times as a teenager. Once for a suspected broken arm, once for possible concussion, once for rib injuries. Each time, the injuries were explained away as sports accidents or clumsiness. Child Protective Services was called when you were 15, but the case was closed after your parents provided explanations. They are both teachers," I said softly, "respected in the community. Nobody wanted to believe they would hurt their own kid. Were those injuries from them?" I met her eyes. "Yes, all of them, and dozens more that I never reported." Dr. Foster's voice was gentle. "Why did you never tell anyone?" "Because nobody believed me. Because every time I tried to say something was wrong, they convinced everyone I was lying or exaggerating or seeking attention. Because they were good at hiding it, good at controlling the narrative. And because part of me believed what they said, that maybe I was the problem." Detective Hayes pulled out a recording device. "I need you to tell me everything. Not just today. Everything." So I did. I talked for over an hour, my voice growing weaker as my breathing became more labored. I told her about the beatings, the punishments for any perceived disrespect or failure. How Mom would hold me down while Dad hit me with his belt, his fists, sometimes worse. How they would target areas that clothing would cover. How they would wait until bruises faded before letting me go anywhere public. How they would coach me on what to say if anyone asked about injuries. I told her how Tyler was the golden child, rarely touched, always praised, given every opportunity while I was criticized for everything. How the abuse ramped up when Tyler started succeeding in school and sports. As if my parents needed someone to punish for their own inadequacies and I was the convenient target. I told her about today, how Dad had actually told Tyler to teach me a lesson because I had criticized Tyler's drinking and partying. How the prank was not Tyler's idea but Dad's, planned to look like an accident, designed to hurt me enough to put me in my place. When I finished, Detective Hayes turned off the recorder. Her expression was hard as stone. Your brother confirmed most of this. Once we separated him from your parents, and he realized how serious your injuries were, he broke down. He told us everything. The abuse, your father's manipulation, the plan today. He is cooperating fully. Relief and betrayal warred in my chest. Tyler had finally told the truth, but it had taken me being paralyzed to make him do it. Your parents are under arrest, Detective Hayes continued. Child abuse, conspiracy to commit assault, and medical neglect. We are building a case for multiple counts of assault over the years based on your statement and the medical evidence. This is not over, Dexter. We are going to make sure they pay for what they did. But even as she said it, even as Dr. Foster talked about my treatment plan and rehabilitation, even as the nurses adjusted my care, I could not shake the feeling that the worst was yet to come. Because I knew my parents. I knew how they operated. They would not go down without a fight. And when Richard and Linda Morrison fought, they fought dirty. 48 hours after my parents were arrested, they made bail. I learned this from Detective Hayes, who came to my ICU room with the news and an expression that said she was not happy about it either. They hired Margaret Caldwell, she told me. The defense attorney. She is expensive, and she is good. I knew the name. Everyone in the county knew Margaret Caldwell. She had gotten multiple abusers acquitted, convinced juries that victims were lying, destroyed credible witnesses on the stand. She is going to come after me, I said. Detective Hayes did not deny it. She is already building a defense. I got a preview of her strategy from the bail hearing. She is going to paint you as a troubled adult with mental health issues, someone with a vendetta against successful parents, someone looking for attention and possibly money. Let her try, I said, though my voice shook. The evidence speaks for itself. But over the next few weeks, I learned that evidence could be twisted, that truth could be reframed, that public opinion could be manufactured. Margaret started with my background. She dug up everything. How I had dropped out of college after 1 year, struggled to hold steady jobs, worked a series of low-wage positions with no career trajectory. She found records from when I was 23 and had gone through a period of depression, seeing a therapist for 6 months before I could not afford it anymore. She leaked selective information to local news outlets. The media, always hungry for a story, ran with it. Troubled son accuses respected teachers of abuse. Questions raised about adult man's claims against parents. Community rallies behind beloved educators. Then came the television interview. My parents, out on bail, sat down with a local news anchor. I watched from my hospital bed, unable to look away from the train wreck. Mom cried beautifully. We have given everything to our children. Everything. We put Tyler through sports programs, supported his education. We tried with Dexter too. We really did. But he has always been troubled. He has struggled with mental health, with employment, with finding his place in life. And now he is making these horrible accusations. Dad played the wounded father perfectly. We love our son. We have always loved him. Yes, we disciplined him when he was growing up, as any parent would. But abuse? Never. These claims are devastating. We have devoted our lives to teaching, to helping children. To be accused of this, by our own son, it is heartbreaking. The anchor, sympathetic and nodding, asked about the medical evidence, the old injuries. Margaret, sitting beside my parents, fielded that one. Those injuries have innocent explanations. Dexter was an active child, involved in sports, prone to accidents. As for the current injury, that was a tragic accident during what was meant to be a fun family celebration. A prank between brothers that went wrong. Nothing more. The comment section on the news station's website exploded. Hundreds of comments. Former students defending Richard and Linda Morrison as the best teachers they ever had. Community members vouching for their character. A few voices of dissent were drowned out by the chorus of support. I felt like I was drowning too. Tyler visited me 3 days after the interview aired. He looked terrible, like he had not slept in weeks. His eyes were red and hollow. I am so sorry, he said, sitting in the chair beside my bed. I am so sorry for everything. Are you sorry enough to testify? I asked. He looked at the floor. They said if I testify against them, they will cut me off completely. No money for college, no family, nothing. You will have a college fund. They will contest it. Tie it up in court. Margaret already told me. He looked up, tears streaming down his face. I want to do the right thing, Dex. I do. But I am 18. I have nothing. No job, no savings. If I lose that scholarship because of legal problems, I have no future. So you will let them destroy me to protect yourself. Tyler stood up, agitated. I already gave the police my statement. I told them everything. Is that not enough? It was enough, I said bitterly, until Margaret convinced you to recant. His silence confirmed it. I signed an affidavit, he finally said, saying the police pressured me, that I was in shock and confused, that what happened was just an accident between brothers roughhousing. I stared at him. You know that is a lie. I know. He wiped his face. But Dex, you do not understand what they are like when you are not around. Dad sat me down and explained exactly what would happen if I testified, how I would lose everything, how I would be painted as a traitor, how the family would be destroyed. Mom said it would kill her if I sided with you over them. They are master manipulators, I said. They have been doing this your whole life. You have just been on the receiving end of the good manipulation, the praise and rewards, while I got the beatings. I know. Tyler's voice cracked. And I hate myself for it. But I cannot throw my life away. Get out, I said quietly. Dex, get out. He left. I did not see him again for weeks. The preliminary hearing happened a month after my injury. Margaret filed her motion to suppress the historical MRI evidence, arguing medical privacy violations. The prosecutor, a young woman named Sarah Chen. Wait, I cannot use Chen. Let me change that. The prosecutor, a young woman named Sarah Bennett, fought hard, but the judge seemed swayed by Margaret's arguments about procedural technicalities and patient privacy rights. I attended via video link from my hospital bed, unable to even sit up without assistance. The judge barely looked at the screen. He ruled from the bench. The historical evidence from the MRI is suppressed. Only the injuries directly related to the incident in question are admissible. With that ruling, the entire case collapsed. Without the evidence of years of abuse, without Tyler's testimony, all they had was one injury from one incident that could be explained as an accident, or at worst, a prank gone wrong. The charges were reduced. Felony assault became misdemeanor reckless endangerment. My parents faced a maximum of 6 months in jail and fines. That was it. 6 months for 28 years of abuse, for leaving me paralyzed, for destroying my life. Sarah came to see me after the hearing. I am sorry, Dexter. I tried. I know, I said, numb. We can still pursue the case. We might get them some jail time. It is better than nothing. Is it? She did not have an answer for that. 2 weeks later, I was informed I would be discharged. My insurance, the bare minimum coverage from my part-time job, had run out. I had been in the hospital for 6 weeks. The bills already exceeded $200,000, and that was before counting the cost of the wheelchair I now needed, the modifications I would require for any living space, the ongoing medical care. I had $1,700 in my bank account. The hospital social worker, Amanda Reeves, tried to find me options. Your apartment is not accessible. It is a third-floor walk-up. I know. You have no family support. Your parents have legally disowned you. Filed paperwork to prevent any claims on their estate. I know. She sighed, flipping through forms. I can get you a bed at Riverside Transitional Care. It is basically a nursing home, but they have a program for younger patients with catastrophic injuries. Medicaid will cover it. A nursing home. At 28 years old. It is the best option we have right now, Amanda said gently. Once you are stable, once we can get you into some job training programs for people with disabilities, maybe you can transition to independent living. But right now, you need care. You cannot afford any other way. I stared at the ceiling, paralyzed, bankrupt, abandoned, facing life in a nursing home. My parents would serve maybe 3 months if the judge was feeling harsh. Then they would go back to their comfortable life, their teaching jobs, their respected place in the community, and I would rot in a facility with people 3 times my age, unable to even use the bathroom by myself, with no future and no hope. For the first time since the injury, I wished Tyler had pushed me harder, wished the fall had killed me instead of just destroying everything I was. Amanda must have seen something in my face because she grabbed my hand. "Do not give up, Dexter. Please. I know it looks hopeless right now, but things can change." I did not believe her. Cassandra Moore appeared in my hospital room on a Tuesday evening, 3 days before I was scheduled to be transferred to Riverside. I barely remembered her. She was Tyler's girlfriend, a girl I had met maybe twice at family dinners. Pretty, with auburn hair and green eyes, studying pre-law at the community college. She stood in the doorway, nervous, clutching her purse. "Can I come in?" I gestured weakly at the chair. "It is not like I can stop you." She sat, not quite meeting my eyes. "I am so sorry about what happened to you. All of it." "Why are you here, Cassandra?" "Because Tyler is destroying himself with guilt and I cannot watch it anymore." She leaned forward. "He has nightmares every night. He wakes up screaming. He has lost 15 pounds. He is drinking. He is failing out of his summer classes. His scholarship is in jeopardy." "Good," I said flatly. She flinched. "I deserve that. Tyler deserves that." But she opened her purse and pulled out a small thumb drive. The night after it happened, Tyler recorded a video confession on his phone. Everything. Your dad planning the prank, the years of abuse, all of it. He was hysterical, terrified, consumed with guilt. He showed it to me because he needed someone to know the truth. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I made a copy." She set the thumb drive on the table beside my bed, without his permission, "and I want to give it to you." My heart started pounding. The first thing I had felt besides despair in days. That could change everything. It could. But there is a problem. She met my eyes finally. "If you use this without Tyler's consent, I could be charged with violating consent laws, recording someone without permission, sharing private communications. And Tyler," she paused, "if that video goes public, it destroys him completely. He admits to everything. His role in paralyzing you, his knowledge of the abuse, his cowardice in not stopping it. He will lose his scholarship, probably face criminal charges himself. His life is over. So you are asking me to protect him? The brother who betrayed me? I am telling you the consequences." Cassandra stood up. "What you do with that information is up to you. I made my choice. I could not live with myself if I did not give you this chance. But you need to understand. Using it could backfire. It could make everything worse." She walked to the door, then turned back. "For what it is worth, Tyler does love you. He is just weak. He has been programmed his whole life to please your parents, to be what they wanted. He is a victim too, in a different way. That does not excuse what he did. Nothing excuses it. But I thought you should know." After she left, I stared at that thumb drive for hours. The nurses came and went. The machines beeped. The hospital hummed with its nighttime rhythms. And I held the key to my parents' destruction in my paralyzed hand, unable to decide if using it would save me or damn me further. I watched the video finally, at 2 in the morning, on the tablet Amanda had helped me set up. Tyler's face filled the screen, tear-streaked and broken. He told everything. How Dad had planned it, had wanted to hurt me for questioning Tyler's partying, had told Tyler to make it look like an accident, how Mom had known and approved, how they had coached him on what to say afterward. He described the abuse I had suffered over the years, things he had witnessed and done nothing about. Meals where Dad would berate me for hours. Times Mom would punish me by locking me in my room for days. The systematic destruction of my self-worth, my opportunities, my life. The video was devastating. It was complete. It was everything I needed, and using it felt like becoming them, destroying Tyler the way they had destroyed me. I spent 3 sleepless nights wrestling with the decision. On one side, justice. On the other, perpetuating the cycle of family destruction. Amanda found me at my lowest point, staring at the wall, the discharge papers for Riverside on my lap. She took one look at my face and pulled up a chair. "Talk to me." "I cannot go to that place," I whispered. I cannot spend the rest of my life in a nursing home at 28 years old. I cannot let them win, but I also cannot. I choked on the words. I cannot destroy Tyler. He is a victim too. He was manipulated and controlled just like I was, in a different way. Amanda was quiet for a long moment. Can I tell you something? I have been a social worker for 12 years. I have seen hundreds of abuse cases. And you know what breaks my heart? It is not the obvious monsters. It is the victims who sacrifice themselves to protect their abusers, who choose their abuser's comfort over their own survival. Tyler is not my abuser. No. But you are about to sacrifice your entire future to protect him from consequences he earned. Where is he right now, Dexter? Is he here visiting? Is he fighting for you? No. Amanda leaned forward. I took the liberty of calling someone. A lawyer. Sharon Vega. She does disability rights cases. Specializes in abuse. Pro bono. She wants to meet you. I cannot afford a lawyer. That is why I said pro bono. She is downstairs. Can I send her up? I nodded, too exhausted to argue. Sharon Vega was in her 50s, with salt and pepper hair and the bearing of someone who had fought 1,000 battles and won most of them. She carried a leather briefcase and wore a navy suit that probably cost more than my car had. She shook my hand, careful of the IV lines. Dexter, I have reviewed your case. I am furious, and I want to help. The criminal case is over, I said dully. Criminal cases are not the only path to justice. Sharon pulled out a legal pad. Civil lawsuit. We sue your parents and Tyler for damages, medical costs, pain and suffering, loss of future earnings, everything. Civil court has a lower burden of proof than criminal. We do not need to prove beyond reasonable doubt, just preponderance of evidence. But the evidence was suppressed. In criminal court, this is different. She smiled grimly. Civil discovery is much broader, and there are other avenues. I have been making calls. I found the doctor who treated you as a teenager, Dr. Martinez. Yes. She kept personal notes expressing suspicion of abuse. She was overruled by hospital administration because your parents were respected community members. She has been carrying guilt about that for years. She wants to testify. My chest tightened with something I had not felt in weeks. Hope. There is more, Sharon continued. I have been investigating your parents' financial situation. Your mother inherited money from her parents 5 years ago, about $700,000. That money is not protected by their retirement accounts. If we win a civil judgment, we can go after those assets. I told her about Cassandra's visit, about the video. Sharon's eyes lit up. That is gold. Even better if Cassandra testifies voluntarily about receiving it. It shows consciousness of guilt, shows Tyler knew the truth, even as he lied to protect them. But it destroys Tyler. Sharon set down her pen and looked at me directly. Dexter, Tyler paralyzed you. Whether he was manipulated or not, whether he feels guilty or not, he made choices. He chose to attack you. He chose to lie about it. He chose to recant his statement. He chose his scholarship over your life. Those were his choices. The consequences are his to bear. But if I do this, I become like them, vindictive, destructive. No, Sharon's voice was firm. If you do this, you survive. There is a difference between self-defense and attack. You are not destroying Tyler for fun or revenge. You are fighting for your right to live, to have medical care, to have some kind of future. That is not the same as what they did to you. I looked at the thumb drive, still sitting on my bedside table. Think about it, Sharon said, standing. But do not take too long. Your parents are already moving. They have filed a countersuit against you for defamation and emotional distress. They are suing you for $500,000. The room spun. What? Margaret's strategy. If they sue you first, it muddies the waters, makes you look like the aggressor. Plus, if they win, you will be financially liable to them on top of everything else. She handed me her card. Call me when you are ready to fight back. But Dexter, you need to decide soon, because they are not going to stop until they have destroyed any chance you have of recovery. After she left, I sat in that hospital bed, paralyzed and alone, and made the hardest decision of my life. I was going to fight. Sharon worked fast. Within 48 hours of our meeting, she had filed a comprehensive civil lawsuit against Richard Morrison, Linda Morrison, and Tyler Morrison for assault, battery, negligent infliction of emotional distress, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and conspiracy. The damages sought, $3.2 million. The number was strategic, Sharon explained. High enough to be taken seriously, backed by actual calculations of my medical costs, current and future, lost earning capacity, pain and suffering. Low enough to be feasible given their assets and future earning potential. Margaret tried to get it dismissed immediately, filing a motion arguing the civil case was an abuse of process given the criminal charges were resolved. The judge, a woman named Helena Ortiz, denied the motion. Civil and criminal cases serve different purposes, she stated from the bench. Round 1 to us. The discovery phase began. Sharon subpoenaed medical records, school records, police reports. She deposed my parents' colleagues, former neighbors, anyone who might have witnessed suspicious behavior over the years. She found the documentation from the Child Protective Services investigation when I was 15, including notes from the social worker who had suspected abuse but could not prove it. She found 3 other doctors who had treated me over the years, all of whom had noted injuries inconsistent with the explanations provided. And then Patricia Holloway called. Sharon came to Riverside, where I had been transferred 2 weeks earlier, to tell me in person. She sat in the common room, surrounded by elderly residents in wheelchairs watching game shows, and told me that Patricia had been recording the Morrisons for years. Security cameras, Sharon said, pointing at their house. She has footage of your father hitting you in the driveway. 2 years ago. You were 26. Why did she never report it? Sharon consulted her notes. She says you begged her not to, that you were afraid of retaliation, that you told her you were an adult and could handle it. I barely remembered that incident. There had been so many. Patricia is dying, Sharon continued gently. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. She has maybe 3 months. She wants to give a deposition before she is unable to. She wants to make this right. The deposition was taken at Patricia's home, with her in a hospital bed set up in her living room. I attended via video link. She looked so small, so fragile, hooked up to oxygen and pain medication. But her voice was strong. She described years of suspicious behavior, hearing crying and shouting from our house, seeing me with unexplained injuries. The time she saw Richard drag me into the garage by my hair when I was 16. The time Linda screamed at me in the front yard, loud enough that the whole neighborhood heard, calling me worthless and stupid. And then she showed the video from 2 years ago. Grainy security footage showing Richard in our driveway, me standing by my car, a confrontation escalating. Then Richard's fist connecting with my face, me falling, him kicking me while I was down. Linda appearing in the doorway, watching, doing nothing. The timestamp showed it was midday, middle of summer. Neighbors were home. No one intervened. Why did you not call the police? Margaret demanded during cross-examination. Patricia's answer was devastating. Because Dexter is an adult. Because he begged me not to. Because I was a coward. I convinced myself it was not my place, that he could leave if he wanted to. I was wrong. I have been wrong for years. I am trying to make it right before I die. Margaret tried to discredit her, suggested the video was edited, that her cancer medication affected her memory, that she had a grudge against my parents over a property line dispute from years ago. But Patricia held firm. She was dying. She had nothing to lose, and her testimony was damning. Dr. Martinez testified next. She described treating me when I was 15 for broken ribs, how the story about falling off a bike did not match the injury pattern, how she had recommended I be admitted for observation, how my parents had refused and threatened to report her for harassment, how hospital administration had sided with them. I failed that boy, she said, her voice breaking. I knew something was wrong. I knew. But I let them intimidate me. I have regretted it every day since. The case built momentum. Discovery revealed emails between Richard and Linda discussing how to handle my injuries, how to keep me quiet, how to maintain their public image. Evidence that they had deliberately isolated me from extended family members who asked questions. And then Cassandra agreed to testify. She did it against Tyler's wishes. He begged her not to, threatened to break up with her. She testified anyway. She brought Tyler's video confession. She testified that Tyler had shown it to her voluntarily, that he had been distraught and guilty. She testified about Tyler's subsequent recantation, about the pressure from Richard and Linda, about the threats to cut him off financially. Tyler sat in the courtroom, head in hands, while his girlfriend destroyed his defense. Margaret tried damage control. She painted Tyler as the real victim, manipulated by his parents, coerced by guilt, unable to think clearly. She argued he should not be held liable for actions taken under duress. But Sharon countered. Tyler is 20 years old now. He had multiple opportunities to tell the truth. He chose his scholarship, his comfort, his future over his brother's life. Those are conscious choices. He must face consequences. The trial lasted 3 weeks. My parents took the stand and lied smoothly, playing the role of bewildered parents wrongly accused by a troubled son. But the evidence against them was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for 8 hours. They found in my favor on all counts. Richard Morrison, liable for $2 million in damages. Linda Morrison, liable for $1 million in damages. Tyler Morrison, liable for $200,000 in damages. Total award, $3.2 million. But the verdict was only the beginning. Margaret immediately filed appeals, motions to reduce the damages, requests for new trial. The fight was not over. Meanwhile, the criminal case, which had seemed dead, suddenly came back to life. The prosecutor, with the new evidence from the civil trial, petitioned to reopen the case and reinstate the original felony charges. This time, the judge agreed. Richard and Linda were arrested again, this time on felony assault, conspiracy, and now obstruction of justice for their attempts to suppress evidence and intimidate witnesses. The bail was set at $500,000 each. They could not make it. Their assets were frozen pending the civil judgment. They sat in jail awaiting trial. Tyler, facing the reality of his actions and the destruction of his relationship with Cassandra, finally broke. He came to visit me at Riverside, escorted by his lawyer. "I am testifying," he said without preamble, "in the criminal trial. I am telling the truth this time. All of it. Why now? Because Cassandra was right. Because Patricia was right. Because I have been a coward, and I cannot live with myself anymore." He looked at me, really looked at me, seeing the wheelchair, the paralysis, the destruction of my body. "I did this to you. I cannot undo it. But I can at least tell the truth." The criminal trial was swift. With Tyler's testimony, with all the evidence from the civil case, there was no defense. The jury took 4 hours. Richard Morrison, guilty on all counts, sentenced to 8 years in prison. Linda Morrison, guilty on all counts, sentenced to 5 years in prison. Both stripped of their teaching licenses permanently. Their house was sold to pay the civil judgment. Their retirement accounts seized. Linda's inheritance gone. Everything they had built destroyed. I received a check for $2.8 million after legal fees and medical liens were paid. Tyler used his college fund, the one he had tried so hard to protect, to pay his portion of the judgment. $50,000. He gave it without complaint. 18 months after Tyler pushed me off that ramp, I sat in my wheelchair at a disability rights rally in the state capitol. The plaza was packed with hundreds of people, advocates and activists and survivors, all there to push for stronger protections for abuse victims with disabilities. Sharon stood at the podium, introducing me. And I want to introduce someone whose story changed how we think about adult abuse and family violence. Dexter Morrison has become a powerful voice for survivors everywhere. Please welcome him. Tyler wheeled me to the microphone. He had become my primary caregiver 6 months ago, after completing a certification program. He attended every rally, every speaking engagement. It was his penance, his path to redemption. Our relationship was complicated. It would always be complicated. But we were rebuilding, slowly, carefully. He was in therapy. I was in therapy. We were learning to be brothers again, in a new way. I looked out at the crowd and began to speak. My name is Dexter Morrison. 18 months ago, my parents nearly killed me. Not with a single act of violence, though that is what finally broke my spine. They nearly killed me, with 28 years of abuse, neglect, and systematic destruction of my sense of self-worth. I told my story. Not just the injury, but everything that led to it. The years of abuse, the cover-ups, the way the system failed to protect me over and over. The way respectability and community standing created a shield for abusers. The crowd listened in absolute silence. I talked about the price of silence, the cost of protecting family secrets. I talked about how my brother was also a victim, manipulated and controlled, and how breaking free from that programming was its own kind of courage. I talked about Patricia Holloway, who had passed away 4 months after giving her deposition, finally at peace, knowing she had done the right thing. About Dr. Martinez, now volunteering with child abuse prevention programs. About Cassandra, studying to become a prosecutor specializing in domestic violence. I talked about the $2.8 million and how I used it. The fully accessible home I purchased. The personal care assistant I hired. The nonprofit organization I founded. Second Chances, dedicated to helping abused survivors with disabilities rebuild their lives. We provide legal assistance, housing support, medical care coordination, job training, everything I did not have access to when I needed it most. The money gave me options. But more than that, the fight gave me purpose. I did not let them destroy me. I fought back, and I won. Not just the lawsuit, not just the prison sentences. I won by choosing to live, to rebuild, to find meaning in the wreckage of what they did to me. The paralysis took my legs, but it could not take my voice. It could not take my determination. It could not take my future. I looked directly at the camera recording the event, knowing my words would be shared online, knowing other survivors would see this. If you are suffering in silence, if your family or your abuser is telling you that no one will believe you, that you are being dramatic, that the abuse is your fault, I want you to know something. You are not alone. You are not crazy. You deserve better. And there are people who will fight for you. It took me 28 years to find my voice. Do not wait that long. Speak up, reach out, survive, and when you can, thrive. The applause was thunderous. People were crying. Tyler squeezed my shoulder. After the rally, reporters wanted interviews. Other survivors wanted to share their stories. Organizations wanted to partner with Second Chances. The work was overwhelming and exhausting and absolutely necessary. That evening, back home in my accessible house, Tyler made dinner while I worked on emails at my adapted desk. My service dog, a golden retriever named Justice, dozed at my feet. My physical therapist would arrive in an hour for my evening session. This was my life now. Different than what I had imagined at 28, but mine, fully mine, for the first time ever. Tyler brought me a plate, sat down across from me. How are you feeling? Tired. Good tired, though. He nodded. Mom sent a letter. From prison. Asking to see you. I set down my fork. What did you tell her? That I would ask you. He met my eyes. You do not owe her anything. You know that, right? I know. I thought about it. Part of me wanted to see her, to hear what she had to say after everything. Part of me never wanted to see either of them again. Maybe someday, I said finally, but not yet. Tyler nodded, relieved. That is fair. We ate in comfortable silence. Outside, the sun set over the city. Tomorrow I had 3 client meetings, a podcast interview, and a Zoom call with state legislators about proposed changes to mandatory reporting laws. My calendar was full. My purpose was clear. My life was my own. The boy who had been beaten and broken and dismissed for 28 years was gone. In his place was a man who knew his worth, who fought for justice, who refused to be silenced. They tried to destroy me. Instead, they set me free. I want to ask you something. If you have ever felt dismissed, unheard, or gaslit by people who were supposed to protect you, how did you find the strength to speak your truth? Share your story in the comments below. Your voice matters. Your experience matters. And someone out there needs to hear that they are not alone. If this story moved you, please hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel for more stories of survival and resilience. And share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Together, we can break the silence around family abuse and create a world where survivors are believed and supported. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being part of this community. And remember, no matter what you are facing, you are stronger than you know. You deserve respect, safety, and love. Never let anyone convince you otherwise. Stay strong, stay brave, and keep speaking your truth.